At this point, I expect games with queer themes to get mixed reviews. What I do not expect is for the negative reviews to come from lesbians. So let's talk about queerbaiting in 1348 Ex Voto. What are my credentials regarding queerbaiting? I am a genderqueer person who has the lived experience of a woman, and I am married to one, so I'm sapphic. I love queer stories and I make an effort to read them. I have yet to really dive into gay romance, for I am into women and therefore men just don't interest me on the fundamental level, but one day I will. The first real footage of Ex Voto I saw was queer creators being excited about the game's premise, and after watching the trailers, so was I. A lesbian knight, a young postulate, forbidden romance, trying to rescue your girlfriend from peril. That's good shit. And it starts really promising. Aeta and Bianca seem close, the sapphic tension is palpable. Aeta's shyness and Bianca's overt flirtiness was a fun dynamic I wanted to see more of. But sadly, 20 minutes into the game, all of that is gone, because the town gets attacked and Bianca is kidnapped by some bandits. Suddenly, it's just me and a deeply yearning Aeta talking to herself about her not-even girlfriend constantly. I mean, the poor girl takes a vow to rescue Bianca. Gayest shit I've ever seen. You haven't even kissed, yet you're ready to die for this girl. I respect it. Quick side quest, I deliberately don't talk about the gameplay itself in this video. Yes, it is rough. Yes, it should have been polished, and yes, I didn't particularly enjoy the game from a gameplay perspective. That being said, this is the first big project of a small indie dev, and a lot of the issues are patchable. Ex Voto reminds me of A Plague Tale: Innocence in that regard. That game was a hot mess too when it came out. You can read reviews on the gameplay if you wish to know more, I just want to talk about queerbaiting today. Now, to fully understand why I am arguing that Ex Voto is queerbaiting, you need to know what happens in the narrative, because the two things are connected. Since the game just came out, please indulge me while I give you a very short synopsis. Bianca gets kidnapped. Aeta vows to rescue her, we fight some bandits who turn out not to be bandits. Aeta finds some Christian lunatics who happen to have kidnapped Bianca, but she doesn't want to be rescued yet. We complete a quick side quest and rescue some townsfolk instead. Now Bianca is about to be burned at the stake and ready to be saved. Aeta rescues her, Bianca leaves her for dead. Aeta spends months alone with an old man and then makes her way to find answers.
After all these months, I shall have answers.
To which questions, I do not know. We find Bianca, who apparently became leader of the very militia who attacked our town at the beginning of the game. She can also now dual-wield swords. The end. If that feels a little rushed and underexplained? Yeah, it does. Because it is. At multiple points throughout, I was confused as to why the events unfolded the way they did. Usually when a narrative is a little convoluted, the explanation as to why something happens is really elaborate. In Ex Voto, there are simply not enough explanations given at any point. Why does Bianca want us to rescue these villagers? What is she trying to achieve by staying locked up for longer? Did none of these men ever think about assaulting her? If you think about it for just 2 minutes, there's just a lot of loose ends. The story makes most sense within the first 2 acts. Bianca gets kidnapped, Aeta finds and rescues her. The boss fight right before the end of Act 2 is the visual and narrative climax of the story. It reads as final showdown. It all comes together here. Search the damsel, rescue the damsel, live happily ever after with the damsel. The story had a natural closing point and the queer community would have been happy. I fully expected the game to end right here. But then it didn't, and I was suddenly in a boss fight against the girl I tried rescuing for the last 6 hours. The whole last section of Ex Voto feels weirdly tacked on. Up until rescuing Bianca, the story was rather flat, but mostly made sense narratively. I was kinda waiting for the emotional payoff and the deeper meaning, but not to a degree that the game felt unfinished. That changes in Act 3. The time jump at the beginning is supposed to explain Bianca's development. The girls haven't seen each other in a couple of months. But that just isn't enough of an explanation. Aeta is talking about finding out the truth a whole lot, which is honestly rather weird. Does she know Bianca's evil? Does she suspect it? Were there signs I just didn't see? From a player perspective, it was all rather confusing. When we finally found Bianca's room inside the fortress, I believed she had just married the leader of the militia, or had been forced to marry him. That made more sense to me, a lot more sense than this girl whose only accomplishment so far was opening a door for some bandits, becoming a militia leader in 1348. And don't get me wrong, I do not care for historical realism. I hate these, well, women weren't even allowed to be knights and therefore the story makes no sense arguments. I am willing and able to suspend my disbelief. But the thing is, at multiple points throughout the story, Ex Voto kinda throws that fact into your face. Women aren't allowed to be who they want to be in these times. Girls aren't knights. That's why everyone assumes Aeta is a boy.
Any idea how hard it is to feed a family, little lord?
She has a whole monologue at the end of Act 2, reclaiming her identity as a woman and using that very fact against the lunatic leader. Bianca has a whole monologue at the end of the game about how society forced her hand because as a woman she can't live freely. But all of this comes from nowhere. There's no build-up to it. These characters never get punished for disobeying societal standards. The consequence of being a woman just don't exist in this world. Bianca talks about them, but we never witness them. We never see the very real horrors of being a woman in 1348. We only see women defy the stereotypes without being punished for it. Bianca just happens to become leader of a militia, with a nice place to live on top. A realistic depiction of a female knight walking into a camp of soldiers would look way different. These men wouldn't even take Aeta seriously until she kills the first. They would refuse to fight her until then because it is beneath them. Female rage would have been a great catalyst for the story. You could have set these two girls up to be so fundamentally done with the world they were born into that they become evil lesbian warlords in the end. I would have eaten that up. All the pieces are there, same way all the pieces for romance are there, but the game does never get there. One throwaway line about not wanting to get sent to a nunnery doesn't translate into I want to see the world burn. And this matters because the game clearly flirts with these themes. What it means to be a woman, what it means to be treated differently because of its societal standards, forbidden love, female rage. All of these could translate into a queer experience, and the opening and the monologue set the story up to be about this, and then it just isn't. It is just never clearly queer. It is never explicitly shown or said. The Oxford Dictionary defines queerbaiting as the practice of incorporating apparently or potentially LGBTQIA+ characters or relationship as a means of appealing to LGBTQIA+ audiences, while remaining deliberately ambiguous about the character's sexuality. The important section here is as a means of. Queerbaiting is something authors do intentionally. There can be accidental queerbaiting, which then will be resolved by either clearly confirming or denying the supposed queer identity of the characters. Ex Voto never openly states that its characters or narrative have queer themes. The website labels Bianca as Aeta's closest one, not beloved or friend. To my knowledge, the devs never said anything on the matter. But the framing, the dialogue, and the deliberate choice of casting Jennifer English, an openly queer woman, in the role of Bianca are subtextual clues that a queer audience picks up on. A possible romantic relationship being heavily implied and then not confirming nor denying is great marketing. You get an automatic fanbase because queer media is still relatively sparse, and you get free publicity by anti-LGBT circles hating on your game for being woke. A great question to ask oneself when trying to identify whether something is queerbaiting or not is, would they end up together if one of them were a man? If yes, then queerbaiting. In our case, the answer is a resounding yes. So why is queerbaiting wrong? Because a marginalized group gets used as a means to make money without ever having to actually deal with the responsibility of accurately depicting that group. It's cowardly. You make use of the need for more representation and get sales while never having to actually sit down with what it means to have a character be queer. Someone hates your game for being too woke? Well, it was never confirmed. Someone loves your game for being about them? Well, it's implied, isn't it? I'm not bitter that these two don't have a happy end. I don't even mind the ambiguous ending. But I felt deeply disappointed in the lack of actual confirmation of the queer themes. You should do better in 2026. We don't have the plausible deniability you hide behind. Until then, I'm Bika, and we did a lot of things today.